The year was 2006. It was around July in specific. I'd just come back after a beautiful family holiday in Florida. All the kids were with us. We had an amazing time. The reality was that we had a little challenge. Whilst I was away, I had a pain within my abdomen area. It was a constant pain. It's it was like a cramp, to say the least. Little did I know that I was actually festering and harboring hepatitis A. This had actually gone through my world and got me to a stage where it actually turned around and collapsed 48 hours after landing back in the country. The reality of life started to sink in when I sat there looking up at the ceiling of the actual bed in the hospital, moving in and out of consciousness, not really paying too much attention because I was just not aware. The scenario was that I was sitting there looking, hearing voices saying, I don't think he's going to make it. He's actually got 2 hours to live. I resonate with what Vic was just sharing at the moment very much. So basically, I'm sitting there looking up at the screen, looking up at my world passing past me from left to right, thinking, if I've got 2 hours to live, am I really going to pull through? The reality was deeper than this. Everything from my wife, a loving parent, my 4 beautiful children, I had created an established business empire. The reality was all this going to go and disappear? In life, what did I actually truly want from life? I'm sitting there in pain, under consciousness, I could say happily. My ambitions, my goals, everything just passed by me in a split second. To be honest, it may have took longer, but because of induced medications, I couldn't work it out. 48 hours, that's all it took. I landed in the country. There's a beautiful story around how it actually happened in my world, and I'll share that a bit later. My liver was 2.5 times the size it was supposed to have been in the world. My inner being had all completely squashed. My stomach, I'd stopped eating. Everything had changed, in and out. Even my liver was showing signs of cirrhosis, and I'm a non-drinker. I spent no time drinking at all, 12 years at that time. My world flashed throughly, starting to actually accept, could death actually be an inevitability? But also thinking, how long do I have to live? In my faith, it teaches me, as a British Sikh, to say that I'm a man of one breath, and that's it. One breath. I breathe in and I breathe out. Whether I make the second is not in my hands. So the question was really deep. A man of one breath. What will I achieve in my life now? Is death on my door? Do I have to accept this? Well, I did. All I accepted was it was an absolute that has to happen. I started to think, who will I share? Who will I ask to step up and help my family? And those days, I was only 31. I had my 32nd birthday in actually hospital. So I was thinking, who's going to be there to handle all of the things that I'd left? All of my affairs started shooting. No, not those kind of affairs. Just the clear financial ones. Started going past my life. And I started thinking, who will handle it? Who is going to help me out of this? Who could I rely on after I'd gone? Because I genuinely started to accept that life, it's going to end. It's going to end. So I will deal with it now. I started looking at my family, my brother, my sisters, my parents, obviously my wife and my family, but my siblings as well. I had 2 amazing nephews at the time who were really, really very much integrated into the business. And I thought, they can manage it with me. I called them in and out of consciousness, not really knowing what I was talking to them, God knows what I was yabbling away. I couldn't help but to wonder, where will I go? Why was I chosen? In my 31 short years at that time, why was I chosen for this journey? What did I have to learn? I worked 7 days prior to this, constantly loving my work, involving with every individual person. All of my staff knew me so personally. I'd work 24 hours if I had to, because I absolutely loved it. I had a multiple group of companies. I had then 3 children. My son, who's in front of me now, was just born. Both parents, 7 siblings, all a very tight-knit family. I had a lot to lose, right? A lot to lose. I had to think to myself, was it truly worth it? Was it really worth it? Not spending time with them. Not being present with every single person. Was it? After being with my family in hospital for 2 months, that's 8 weeks, under sedation, 2 blood transplants, and away from my group company for a whole year. I had 14 companies then, a complete group of companies gone. I was away from them all. They managed without me. This is a learning that I had later, that how significant am I in the world? How significant did I want to be? The memory that I thought, that I prized, of how to do something, how to build my life, how to be the boss, my loving memories of all the children, they all seemed to have disappeared. It was getting shattered. Couldn't really recall much. Medications, morphine-based drugs. I felt slowly but surely that I'd started to kind of lose me and start to really not really work out who I was anymore. I'd lost all of my own temperaments. I was overjoyed one day when I was told, you've got the all clear. Go on. You can go back home now. So off I go, return to my business thinking everything's going to be absolutely fine, because that's how it goes, right? It's all simple. I found myself, though, in a different state. A state that didn't serve me. Never really felt it before. It was a constant state of distraction. I thought of nothing. And then I thought of nothing again. It was just constantly in this flow, with an inability to focus properly on anything that I wanted to achieve, any tasks that I had, even getting the simplest of things done, like email, phone calls, sales calls, texts. I would sit there talking to customers, listening to my staff's challenges, and find myself repeating, yeah, what was that again? Not really listening to them at all. And I even tried listening harder, but it wasn't making sense. Bits were missing in my life. Struggling with this, I heavily started, in my own opinion, tasking myself and multitasking, trying to do more things at the same time, moving plates from this side to this side, and then shoveling them all around saying, I can do more, right? Because the whole message was to do more quicker. That's what it was all about. Multitask, the savior of my life. Not. My day started and it finished, but sadly, I wasn't really achieving much. I'm not sure if you've been there yourself. A day starts, it finishes. Handful of tasks written down, maybe even clear one. That'll be a good day. Well, this wasn't the success formula that I was honored by my 7 generations in business and family and the articulation that they shared with us as well. This is the kind of stuff that I previously enjoyed. But all of a sudden, I started to procrastinate. I started to increase my life's frustrations. I started getting angry. Even to the stage, I started getting self-doubt. Now, trust me, when I was a child and when I was in my teens and 20s, I had no self-doubt. I had stuff to do, and I was achieving it then. Feeling too busy. I'm sure you've all had these moments, using the word busy, but it became quite common practice for me to say it. Yeah, I'll give you a call. I'm just busy at the minute, but I'll give you a call. But when I really looked at what I was doing, I was busy doing nothing and doing nothing really well. Constantly running out of time. I had the need. I had created this new urge and new need of novelty, escapism, relief. All of this was fed by distraction. So it allowed me to distract myself consciously and unconsciously. I also had found a new need, that I needed to be wanted by others. I wanted to be wanted. Am I being valuable in your life? Did I help you? And before, it was just a part of me, part of my day. But the reality was, I was so lucky that one day my wife could not see this any longer. And she picked up my PC, my machine, and popped it in front of me and said, did you know you were an avid note taker? You used to journal everything. In those days, it was Outlook and PC, but these days, it tends to be a Mac. I was reading endlessly, picking up every single word, trying to backtrack as much as I could. Even when I did business deals, I was an avid note taker. I'd make notes of how the deal went and what happened. And for me, where the pivotal point was. So I started regurgitating and relearning all this stuff. And all of a sudden, the vibrancy started popping again. Things started to come back into flow. Going to pivotal points. This was the pivotal point of my recovery. From this day onwards, I relentlessly read memory after memory, igniting strategy after strategy, keeping myself focused, starting to get stuff done. But then my mind started to reconnect with my core knowledge of who I was when I was somebody. Because we all were somebody sometime, right? I can't be that now, can I? One of the most powerful strategies that truly, truly helped me was realizing that I could remap and rewire my brain. The way I was thinking, the way I was trying to be. So I started to actively look for answers and excuses that I was looking for and started to replace them with reasons why I could do things. This led me on a constant, what we call mission, to create laser-like focus. Focus that I could attain whenever I needed it at that moment. To achieve this, I would research people, look at them, see how they were working. I'd research myself, and I'd even look at my brother, and I'd even look at my father, my mother, who was an amazing part of my life, to see what they were doing when they had stuff to do. And slowly but surely, things started to change again. I recently had refined and evolved a process there and then based upon neuroplasticity, understanding how we can rewire ourselves and move forward. I've named this the process of DFT, which is daily focused time, something that you can repeat and do every single day. So today, this is principally what I'd like to show with you. Allow you to be in a position like I learnt myself when I'd lost my focus, of how to demand and how to ask on demand, what I could want to do and achieve in that moment. So, with an urge, I found myself constantly distracted, researching other people's research. There was a doctor, Professor Gloria Mark of the University of California, and in 2012, she shared, stating that our mind is in a constant state of distraction. She says, may surprise you, that in every 3 minutes of concentration, we ignite self-distraction. So if we're doing something for 3 minutes, within 3 minutes, we redistract ourselves. We start looking at other novelties, things, mobile phones, calls, texts, and the dreaded WhatsApp. And then, do you know that once you've distracted yourself, do you know how long it takes to get back into focus and back into flow? Back thinking of the exact thing you were thinking of? 15 to 20 minutes. So I'm sitting there thinking about a call and a talk, and I'm sitting there having a sell, and in the middle I've drifted and distracted. So now I've got no chance of closing, so I'm taking a 15-minute journey, aren't I? To bring myself back onto concentration. This is just amazing to hear this stuff. So now, have you ever found yourself starting a task or starting a day and realizing by the end of the day you've not really done much like I was doing? The reality is that when we're 15 minutes in distraction, we can also be redistracted, right? So I've just been distracted. It's taken me 3 minutes. What if I get distracted again when I'm trying to return myself back into focus. That'd be quite interesting, wouldn't it? Well, I call this process or this flow as a never-ending loop of distraction. When you start the day, you can't remember where the day's gone. You end the day having done 1, maybe 2 or 3 tasks, and you're nowhere near completion. Well, I'm going to continue. This is called the candy floss effect. There's 7 steps of my life which I looked through, and I realized that's what I want to share with you today, is 7 clear steps of being able to bring yourself back into focus. In between each one of our actions that we do when we lovingly multitask, which we understand really works, doesn't it? No, it doesn't. There's a doctor called Dr. Linda Boyd from British Columbia University, and she is a master in leading technologies of neural plasticity. She goes on to state that humans can rewire and replan whatever they would like to do in their mind. So if they have a bad habit, we become just our last habit, our last action. If we change our last action to something that serves us or does not serve us, that's how we rewire ourselves. So it's really just as simple as that. She goes on to say that there's a space that between our multitasking of taking a task and a second task on, there's a little gap that we don't actually do anything with. We're half thinking of doing that, half thinking of doing that. This little gap space is called twitching. Did you know that we actually twitch regularly every single day? 30 minutes of twitching every single day. That means in a space of no man's land of thinking, shall I do it? Shall I not do it? Shall I do it? Shall I not do it? That totals up 180 hours a year. That is, team, over 1 week of nothing a year. Gets quite understated in that context otherwise. So the Royal Institute of London Psychiatry have found that actually, when you multitask, you split your frontal cortex, prefrontal cortex, and you're actually taking on 2 conscious actions. This is only related to conscious actions, not unconscious actions. As we breathe, it doesn't cause a problem. But this split actually reduces your concentration span by half. It's pretty logical. But you actually reduce the amount of data and vital details that you take in as well. So you've got a higher chance of making an error and a mistake. So why do we still do this? Because we're under the pretense that multitasking truly works. But they have proven it actually makes us dimmer. It reduces our IQ by multitasking. So the key power is to do one thing at a time. You cannot consciously process 2 tasks in the same moment. It's either one or the other. This is the realization that came to me. So, as I said, Linda Boyd goes on to say that the brain is just like a muscle, principally what we were talking about just a moment ago. The muscle can be retrained, it can be rebuilt. So if we plan to rebuild it consciously, it will change. It will rewire for success or something that serves you, because you're currently rewiring it for whatever you want it to be. So the 7 steps that I would like to share with you under the DFT process, if I may. The step 1 is to always start with an inner challenge or something you want a resolution to. What I call an inquiry question. An inquiry is something that starts with a what, a who, or a why. Why do I do this? How can I do this? What do I want to do next in my life? How many things can I achieve in a day, etc., etc. So you can turn it into tasking, or you can turn this into an actual method of life as well. Asking a specific question has to be very toned into an exact question. What are possibly my steps next? So what we do is we write this question down and we get ourselves a pen and paper. And we literally grab a pen and paper. That doesn't mean a laptop when you're tapping away, because there's a certain change there. There's a Cartesian logic which changes your digital or auditory digital thought processes into analog hand movements and then turns it into visual when you see it back. So you think it, you write it, you see it. 3 elements that need to be looked at. So we write down everything that comes in our mind asking that question. If you're a creative type, you might want to turn the paper sideways, which basically makes it landscape. You're welcome to do mind maps or something of this sort of nature. But if you're not a creative and you prefer to write things in lists, make it vertical, portrait, and list every single possibility out. Answer your question through two main mind blocks. You know those moments when you're thinking and all of a sudden you go, I'm not sure what to write next. There's a key. You need to push through two. And the idea is to fill that page up as much as you possibly can, but strongly. When you're getting past that, you've got to be very focused on whatever you're thinking at that particular time. Even the question of, I don't know what the next question is. You just write it down. The moment you start writing it down, it kickstarts past that block. The second thing after this, step 2, is to take a break and just allow the RAM of your thoughts to come back into your mind and start to allow you to refocus again. Take a break of maximum 3 minutes. You just need to think of one thing or another, even looking out of the window or paying attention to something else different, allowing your brain to retrain and trust yourself. What you do is step 3. You then look at your large list and you select and circle, whichever it is, the top 10 of those processes, of those actions and answers. So whatever the answer is, circle the top 10. After the top 10, you reduce it down to top 5 of the most important questions that answer the question for you. Answers that question, the answer to the question. After down to 5, you take a quick break and go back to reduce it down to 3 once again. Now, once you've got your 3 key circles, the tasks or the answer, or the next thing you've got to do, you then reduce that down into 1, 2, and 3, popping them into a clear step-by-step order. The moment you receive those step-by-step orders, the next step is to physically go and action it, consciously and aware. Once you've completed the 7th step, there is actually a hidden 8th step, without a doubt. We've got to have an infinite circle, haven't we? And that is repeat at will. Use this in an unlimited capacity to step up and answer any question from school, from work, from home, even relationships. Why am I not connected? Etc., etc. You can fill the page out with an abstract answer and reduce it down to tell you the one thing. And then, once you've got more of an identity or an identification of what the challenge could be and the answer, you can then re-DFT it. Well, this is how I rebuilt my businesses, how I rebuilt my mind, because I'm as good as my last action and thought. With my experience, I've found that creating a space, a power space, a space that helps me think better also is the next step. So what does this mean? It means an area where nobody or anybody cannot access you at that particular time. That means your mobile phone should be switched off. That means your laptop should be put away from you. Hence why I say pen and paper. So this space is called a power space. With this, if you repeat the DFT process and action certain tasks within your set time in the day, giving it a start time and an end time, what will happen is you will speed up your conscious brain and retrain it to remember things, retrain it to trust itself, retrain it to start and finish within a set time frame as well. All of these elements, if we look at any successes we've done, is when we've had the most clarity, which allows us to move forward. Mobiles, phones, all of these things need to be switched off. Pen and paper. Speeding up your mind is not a miracle. It's just an element of expanding your focus a little bit more. Keeping that focus in time. Allowing you to slow the rest of your world down because you've got most of your conscious tasks done in the morning or whenever you choose in the afternoon. If you can select and put it all into one place and push through those questions and answers, the rest of the day can be left with a bit more of an emotional state and a bit more in a being state and being more present. This allowed me to start to enjoy my time perfectly in more of a contextual base with my children. I could actually have a conversation with them and actually be present with them and listen to them for just 1 minute, which will be far, far better than spending an afternoon with them with the phone stuck to my head. Maybe we've all been in those situations. The question we have to ask ourselves is, are we truly being, doing what our calling is? Whether you're a God believer, whether you're an ether believer, the Mother Earth, or whether you're a spiritual being, like we all are, The bottom line is, I do believe that we have all been installed with a beautiful gift that is unique to each and every one of us in this room. Our question is, are we looking for it? Have we found it? And are we doing something with it? You've heard some great inspirational stories today. The reality is we all have it. Look for it and find it and do something with it today. I hope it has been helpful to you. I sincerely believe that our journeys were crossed and paths with some particular reason in mind. Thank you very much. My name is Sukhi Wahiwala.